immediately the microphone falls over. That's a high quality, very sophisticated setup we have here in Challengers, where we are as opposed to in the podcastatorium, because and there's a train as well, so that's always good. Yeah,
it's local color.
Recording in the store, you definitely get the ambiance of being in the store.
Absolutely, yes.
But tonight, you, incredibly lucky listener, get to hear a conversation between myself and literally my favorite person to talk to about the industry, somebody I've known now 22 years? Something like that.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right? I think we met in like 2001.
2002.
Yeah, 2002?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah.
21 years, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have a drinking age child together.
But somebody who's done books that we continue to sell thoroughly at the store, someone that I've been privileged to call a friend for a long time, someone whose wedding I officiated.
Yep.
And somebody who has just the most natural curiosity about the industry that we're both in, and the number of times we've sat down and talked about comics and the comics, well, more comics publishing, comics selling, and that I thought, I wish we were recording this. Now we're recording it.
Here we go.
So please welcome to Contest of Challengers.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Eyes to approve, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics, keep your local store strong. It gets hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and
Tim Seeley.
Thank you so much, my friend, for having me. You know, I wish I didn't have to go to a podcast to just bullshit with you, but this is a good excuse for us to do it because I can tell my wife, honey, I can't cook the shrimp dinner that I was supposed to do tonight because I got to go talk to Pat. So,
And for business reasons.
For business reasons.
On the short term, we're gearing up for Local Man #1.
Yes.
But you have so many books out right now, like
Too many.
Hexware, like Lucky,
Yeah.
like Money Shots in between arcs. It's going to come back with a new #1, right? Is it? It's a like
Yeah.
starting. Okay.
It's called Money Shot Comes Again.
Nice, appropriate.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I missed several.
I've got that Marvel Vampire thing I'm doing. I've got all that.
yeah,
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven,
It's a whole
yep.
event I did.
Yeah.
I don't know what else I got. I don't know, a bunch of shit.
So there's one thing that we hate about Unforgiven
Yeah.
is that it's a series of one-shots and not a miniseries, because the metadata for this series doesn't let anybody subscribe to it,
Oh, that's great.
because it's all
Jesus.
it's Captain America Unforgiven, Spider-Man Unforgiven. Those are different things. So Marvel embeds those as all different series with a #1. So there's no system, whether it be Managed Comics or Comic Suite or Comic Hub. It's not a series. It's one
great.
shots. And series are considered very different. Or series are one thing. Pre-orders, one shots is something else. So when someone's like, "Oh, can I get all these?" we have to go into your account and remember how many books it covers and go in and subscribe you to each individual issue. And Marvel does this all the time.
This is making me wish I had more alcohol in this non-alcoholic beer I drank.
It is. I mean, they do it all the time, and they try to do it so it almost is like it's like a monthly miniseries, but it's all one shots. And their reasoning is, well, #1 sell better. Yeah, but if you had faith in it, you would stretch it out over a couple months. And I think this is, but it's still a couple issues per month. It's not
one 30-page issue each month.
Oh, okay, just one per month, but it's still
Yeah, but it's a issue and a half. It's 30
Okay.
whatever pages, I think it's. So
that's issue and a half. That's
yeah.
definitely an issue and a half. But for every time retailers want to argue about this, David Gabriel from Marvel already knows what it's going to sell, because he's been doing this a long time. So he's like, well, you guys say that if it were a miniseries, you'd order higher, but I know you won't.
there you go. I
But
mean, that's the
it's just-
unfortunate reality, right?
Yeah, it is, but it's also it's just so much extra work for us to be able to
Sure.
subscribe, to sign someone up for Unforgiven, because Unforgiven isn't a series; it's a series of one shots.
Well, and this is the thing I want to talk to you about in general is why are we doing these things if it benefits nobody?
Yeah, I mean
that's the problem. Like, I don't understand. Like, obviously this book is probably geared towards the trade then, right? So that's why they're doing it. We
Yeah.
get the 30 pages out of the way. We get a 90-page trade. That's
Do
the
you
goal.
read Tom Brevoort's Substack?
I do, yeah. He's, well, not Substack. He posts a lot of stuff on his blog. Is where I've
Oh,
been
yeah, okay,
following him,
fair. He talks about how logistically, like, people said, like, why don't you move just to a trade format? He goes, oh, no, the single issues have to make the money for the trade.
Yeah.
So when the trade comes around, we don't have to pay creators again. We already have that material digitized. It's all ready to go. We can't do the trades without the singles.
Absolutely true. Well, so that brings it. I actually posted this on Twitter this week. I had a conversation with a big publisher and one of their executives, and he does not work there anymore. But I asked him, well, you must have books that didn't do well monthly but became very popular trades. And he said, no, none of them. I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, because I have Hack Slash, which does in monthlies, but sells great in trade and has for 20 years.
Yeah.
So it's so confusing to me, but that seems to be the math at Marvel and DC, which is, this is a test. If it came out in monthly and it didn't do well, it's not going to do well in trade. But to me, how can that be true? Because there are books that are clearly aimed at monthly comic readers, and there have to be books that are then aimed at people who actually read trade, the real mainstream, right? The bookshop market. But it seems that the indication was, no, it's the same, which is crazy. That cannot be true.
It can't be, but I feel like maybe it is.
Well,
but
so
it
back
doesn't-
this up.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the other side,
Yeah.
Tom King, good friend of mine.
Yeah. You guys wrote Nightwing together.
Absolutely.
You
Great.
broke him into the industry. Without you, he'd be
right.
nothing, and put that on the record.
Well, so, yes, absolutely. Tom remembered this. But, so he, like, let's say, he has a huge success with Adam Strange or with Rorschach, but like Gotham Central or Supergirl did less, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as successful. But that's going to be a huge trade.
Yeah.
That is going to sit on a book market shelf.
So
with
it's
those.
funny you say that, because today we sold every copy of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow we had extra calls.
Because of James.
Because of
Yeah.
James Gunn.
Yeah. So that's so...
And also, because this is how backwards everything is, that book now, it's out of print. Because the movie side of things, the entertainment side, doesn't talk to publishing and never said, hey, we're going to be doing this, so make sure you have this in print. Because they don't give a shit. Why do they care?
Well,
don't care if
they
it's
may
selling.
not have known. They were doing that until, like, not long ago.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, that's just, how many times does something take off in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and then Marvel is caught not having that property
Oh,
in
absolutely.
print?
But it's not necessarily that those people don't talk, but I think, which is part of it, but I think the even bigger part of it, and I have a story about this, the bigger part of it is it's so fast. When you announce a movie that you're going to do a movie versus how long it would take you to, oh, hey, this is coming up, print some extras. Like, nobody in this business does anything for the long term. They do it for the fast buck, right? So, would Marvel, even if that was the case, even if someone let them know, would they print it? I don't think so.
But okay, so using Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, that movie's not coming out for like what? How many years?
True. Well, they'll print the Holy Trade now, but
Yeah,
the announcement
now,
sold the book.
But
Yeah,
people
right.
people want it now.
Right.
Watchmen, the trade, sold so well for us from announcement up to the movie came out. The second the movie came out, sales died.
Because the movie wasn't that good.
Right. But also, like, so I guess in my own analogy, when there's a Supergirl trailer, we'll be able
you'll
to sell
sell
that shit.
again.
Yeah.
And the movie will be good, and so then
Yeah.
I'll sell it. But so it's interesting. I had a story about this, which was like a few years ago, I got a call from Marvel, and they said, hey, we need to roll out a Shatterstar series because he's going to be in Deadpool. But the movie was going to come out in like 3 months, essentially. So they're like, we got to get this book going now because we won't have an issue out for the movie. And it was it was not a Marvel movie at the time. It's the 20th century
Fox,
Fox,
yeah.
right? But they knew that he was in it. So I was like, fuck, that's awesome. I'd love to do it. And I liked the character. So I read the series. And then I've turned in the script and it's already ready to come out that next Wednesday. And that Friday, the Deadpool 2 comes out. And I go see it. And I was like, do you know he dies right away? And the poor people at Marvel were like, yeah, no, we didn't know that. Because they didn't get shared.
Right,
Fox
yeah, they
didn't
didn't-
tell
they-
them that.
sure.
And I was like, he was kind of a joke also, by the way. It's like, so again, we shouldn't have to rely on these movie companies to sell us comics, but it's kind of unfortunate that, they're different comics. You got like 3 months. You can do it fast. The movie it's years before this shit comes
Yeah.
out, And it is weird, like, announcing things sells books, which is, and, Ryan Brown and Charles Holt can tell you this, announcing the curse word, not curse words, 8 Billion Genies, announcing that TV show, which won't come out for I don't know, 3 years.
Yeah, maximum. I mean, a minimum. Yeah.
Yeah, sold the shit out of the comic, which is great. But it's such a weird disconnect because they're just not on the same schedule in any way. TV and movies takes forever.
Yep.
So it's like, what I wish, and this is probably a big wish, that comic readers were like, no, we're the tastemakers. If we tell you it's good, you'll follow suit. And it's not that way, unfortunately,
And it's
to
not.
some degree.
And regardless of how good the comic is, I don't mean to cut you off, but regardless of how good the comic is, Hollywood is always going to change it just to change it.
Well, yeah.
They'll have reasons behind it, but it still will never make sense.
Well, yeah, it'd always be some reason because it's live action, it's a different thing. It just, I try not to make it a bummer, but it bums me out that the readers are like, oh no, I'm going to let Hollywood dictate what's good to me. Oh, they bought it, it must be good.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it was fucking good already. Abraham James was already good. Why did you need to wait for an Amazon executive to tell you it was worth buying? That doesn't make sense to me.
Do you remember the Kirkman book Thief of Thieves?
Yeah, yes.
So we had...
Andy Deagle, right?
Yeah. This goes back to, of many, right? They're like rotating.
That's right.
Sean Martin wrote too?
Yeah, Sean Martin.
This goes back to, I think, C2E2 year 3, maybe? When the first issue was out, and we had a bunch of it, but for some reason it was returnable. So we had a ton of copies, and we had we were doing Image Heavy for C2E2 that year because they let us do consignment for the show, and we had a small rack of singles. We brought all of our number ones that we had left over for that because it's like, well, we're going to send them back. We may as well see if we can sell them, right? That weekend was the announcement for the TV series, so some dude came in and bought every single copy we had. Whatever happened with that TV series?
Oh shit! Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the thing is, I mean, then here's my other question: does that drive that collector from comics? Because like, well, I thought it was going to be this investment, and it didn't turn into anything. But that's also like, well, that wasn't why you were doing it in the
Right.
first place.
That's not why you should buy the comic. But
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so confusing to me because it's like, it's like I get one of the reasons comics survives where magazines struggle is magazines are not collectible, right? Nobody buys an issue of Rolling Stone and is like, oh man, this is going to mean something someday. You read it, you throw it away. That's why Rolling Stone is struggling like crazy, right?
Yeah.
It can't, you can't compete with news with the internet, right? So yes, the collectability is very important to comics because it keeps them relevant and fresh and not just disposable, right? On the other side of it,
Yeah.
it also turns it into a game, which is going to have losers that you're not going to have a good time with this.
and you're going to have way more losers than you are winners.
Bingo. Which American
Yeah.
system?
Yeah.
American capitalism. Bingo.
When I was a kid and we would save all the comic books, we'd save it because, my brother George and I, because we would reread them.
Yeah.
You don't reread Sports Illustrated.
Bingo. It's
You get-
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, I also kept like Amazing Heroes. 'Cause
Sure.
I do like that
but
kind
they're
of
about
snapshot.
they're about comics, and they were
Yeah.
also, you had a fandom for the stuff in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense. And they had original content, etc. Yeah, yeah. Comics scene when I was a kid. Like yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. No, you're definitely right. But man, it is. We've often James Tynan talks often. You're a close personal friend, James Tynan. I say that because you brought him out. We all did karaoke years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Love that guy.
He's very vocal in his assessment of like, hey, variant cover fans are half of the market. Like you cater to them as you cater to readers. Like so long as they're buying the product, you don't tell them how to engage with it. And he's right, but there's still a level in it to me of like, at least read it. When you're buying it, at least read it. Like, figure out why you're buying it.
Well, because James and I probably agree on the basics here, but I'll tell you the part of it I disagree with. The variant cover game is a future. You're not investing in the future, right? Getting fans, having a book come out and saying, "Hey, I want you to come back every month," means having them engage with a script or a story art that they love and the character, and then they keep coming back, and you're building a group of people who come to your store tomorrow and 10 years from now, hopefully, because you gave them a copy of one of James's book and they loved it, and that will build them. The problem with the cover game is it is the exact kind of speculator thing that crashed the market in 1997.
Yes.
It's the exact kind of thing. Look,
And I was selling comic books back then as well, so I lived
you
through
remember,
this.
yeah. And it killed stuff because then it wasn't. It was number ones. Let's say it was still collectibles. It was like,
the Foil and Boss Silver Sable #1.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And the store would order, fucking 7,000 and sell 35 and then sit on these books because someday they'll be worth money.
Oh, man.
And,
my early days of comics, we were ordering with keeping in, like, every book had at least 2 copies that went into a back room to be pulled out later. Unless it was X-Men, it was like 5.
wow.
And then when it was time for sales or whatever, we would go back through those boxes, dig through, restock, mark things up, see what the market would be like. Oh, this book we've been hoarding for a couple years, now we get an extra couple bucks out of it, kind of a thing. But it was literally a facet of ordering. You order to sit on these books.
Which is interesting. And, the idea of the back issue thing is part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like and even if, as a fan, not a key collector who's investing things because you're like, this character might show up in a episode of the fucking Moon Knight TV show or something. If you're investing with it because you care about that, hey, like me personally, I have to have the first appearance of Tiger or something, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that part. And I know that's part of what they're doing.
For the record.
I do.
Yeah.
But that's part of, I get that that's part of the fun, but when it's not towards the event of you're going to make future fans, it's just side money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because these first appearances aren't for future fans.
Bingo. Right. And the other side of it is obviously going to be is that is going to change as well. Some of those characters, they don't take off. People having something because people like this character and then come back for it, that's eternal. Having it, this character might show up in some other form of media is not.
Yeah, and as you
like
said before, why does another form of media validate the place where it all comes from?
Yeah, it's insane.
It's like the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah, the Thief of Thieves thing you just told.
Yeah.
It's like, in Hack Slash, I was against it, but, soon to be a major film from Road Pictures. There's not even a fucking Road Pictures anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't have a fucking movie. So, us sort of pushing that, I always felt was a mistake. And the idea, I think the sort of validation and the way that these things are valuable, not because you enjoyed it, because it might be this sort of like, I had it first and now it's an action figure in a lunchbox and a fucking, a streaming TV show or whatever. Like, that's a weird way to do business. And I guess it's sort of like playing stocks. I guess you buy stocks for a company. Oh, this will take off. And I guess that's part of it.
But at least stocks, that's all you're getting. You're not
right.
You're not buying a thing to do nothing with. Like, the early days of Challengers was when Barack Obama was on the cover of Amazing Spider-Man.
Sure, absolutely.
And that book sold crazy. Nobody was reading it.
Yeah.
They just wanted to have it. And like Dal said,
because it's a piece of history. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have just been a piece of paper with Obama's face on it, and people would still want it because they were told it was a thing.
But it wouldn't, because the reason that it worked was that a Spider-Man comic, which is a thing in pop culture and known to be an item and known to be a collectible, had Barack Obama on it.
It's true.
So it had to be a comic, and it had to be probably a Spider-Man comic. If it had been like Barack Obama's on the cover of, maybe that, or just like maybe some obscure title, like I'm trying to think of something
Fish
from
Police.
that. Yeah, Fish Police. I would have read that, but
Sure, I would have had it because I would have been buying Fish Police.
But you see what I'm saying? It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Like that shit that when it shows up on Fox News or something and now it's a part of history, you can't predict that either. Like all of a sudden,
but I mean that it doesn't always work. Like there was a point where Superman in the Straczynski run was walking across America, and he was going to be at specific major cities on specific Wednesdays. So they were trying to do like, an event in Chicago when Superman's in Chicago, and they when you seek out media coverage, you're not going to get it. It has to be organic for it to work.
Right.
Yeah,
you
can't manufacture that.
No. Yeah, and it's like a weird poor Matt Rosenberg and writing Joker being pregnant, and that's all over Fox News because it happens to accidentally time up with their bullshit culture war thing.
Yeah.
He's just doing an homage to Silver Age comics. There's nothing in any way shocking or about that at all, but because you happen to just be unlucky or lucky as far as the sales, because people they heard about it, right? They probably came in and bought that fucking book, even though, it's just like you can't manufacture those weird moments of, which comics has always had, but like, I feel like to some degree it's become this thing of like, I'm going to rely on that and that's why I do this. And that,
and you can't. It's diminishing returns every time.
Yeah.
Even Challengers has learned, like, if we have an event that is so successful it takes us by surprise, we're like, wow, we need to replicate that. The next time you do it, nobody cares. It doesn't work. You just can't keep doing it. You got to do something different.
That's crazy. I mean, and that's the way I would always hedge the bet on this is well, I know the one thing that will be valuable. I can't manufacture a successful event. I can't manufacture a national public controversy. I can't do any of that. But what I can manufacture is more readers.
Yeah, and that to me, that's more important.
Right.
And this is a bad example because it's a Joss Whedon example, and Joss Whedon is rightfully out of the public eye. But when he was doing the first Dark Horse Buffy book, that was in like the mid 2000s, when he was writing like Buffy season 8 for Dark Horse, I'm like, this is the best thing that happened to comic, because we're going to get all these Buffy fans who are coming in for this book, and I got the run of this series to get them into something else. And if I can't do that, I'm bad at my job.
Yeah.
Now, it also helped that he was doing Astonishing X-Men, so we were able to be like, hey, Joss also wrote this.
Yeah.
But I mean, he got people in the door.
That's amazing.
And it didn't stick. Like, people didn't care when he was doing Runaways, because he wasn't doing Runaways. He was doing whatever his HBO series became. Like that HBO series about the Victorian era superheroes.
Nevers.
Yeah. He was doing, like, that spun out of what he was writing for Runaways. Because he's like, oh, I have this idea, let me stick the Runaways into it. So it didn't quite work out. But anyway, it was still like that. It is, whenever there is a thing that gets people to come back regularly, there was, the Glow TV series from a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
Alison Brie.
Yeah. There was a comic book written by former pro wrestler AJ Lee, WWE Women's Champion, AJ Mendes, and Amy Garcia from not only Lucifer, but the 2005 Global Frequency pilot. She was in that. That never aired. But anyway, these two women have massive, massive followings in social media and real life and whatever. So like, hey, AJ lives here. Amy is from here. So we set up a signing with them. And we knew that we couldn't just be like, hey, come by issue number 1, because then people wouldn't come back for 2, 3, and 4, right? So we're like, all right, the cost of the signing, you're prepaying for the whole series.
Yeah.
You get issue 1 when you show up. You get 2, 3, and 4 when they come out. You got to come back for them. We had to recycle long boxes full of 2, 3, and 4 because people never came back. They didn't want the comic. They wanted the experience of meeting those two people, those two celebrities, and that was it. And we held on to these books for years. All through the pandemic, it was just like the middle of last year, we're like, let's give up. They're never coming. Because they all got, every time a book came out, they got a call or an email saying, hey, the next issue of Glow is in. You've already prepaid for it.
Yeah.
So, like, we didn't lose any money on it because these books are already prepaid for. Fine. But it's so disheartening. Like, you wouldn't even come back for the comic you already paid for because you don't care about the comic.
That's fucked up. I mean, but you knew that you were marketing this along the lines of meet these people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it sucks.
It's still disappointing.
It's still disappointing.
Because
you lower your faith in humanity. You didn't want to fucking get the book.
But, I mean, we did this signing for the book.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to AJ shops here. This is her store. I don't need to meet her. I get to see her whenever she comes in.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing this for me. Although it was great to meet Amy. She is just the best human. But, so, like, the whole point, the reason they did it was to say, hey, look, we're not just actors or wrestlers or whatever. We can write. They both wrote Blade of the 47 Ronin that was on Netflix in the fall that did really well for Netflix, apparently. Like, so they have their own production company, and they make so, like, the point is, like, hey, look, we can do other stuff. Why don't you sample it? And people wouldn't.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, that's I don't have a good solution to that one. So if you can't,
I mean, if you came out with a line of, like, men's sportswear.
Yeah, right.
I would buy it because you're my friend.
They were all really short shorts. They're just really short. Balls hang out for sure.
Like they've got the different colored trim all the way around the edges. Yeah, like gym shorts. Yeah,
and then your balls just drop right out. Yeah.
But I mean, I would do to support you. But I mean, would you expect people that read revival to buy your clothing? Probably not.
No.
And obviously, it wouldn't be a revival theme. It would just be like, oh, loungewear for the modern male.
I mean, and I guess to some degree, there's always a little bit of that crossover, but obviously, the merits of something don't.
SEELEY's skivvies.
SEELEY's see these, and again.
See these. That's excellent.
Yeah, the balls are there.
That's why you're the writer.
Right. That's why I make things up for a job.
See these. and I think the company logo is just like a clear sack with 2 oranges in it, but 2 grapefruits. Yeah.
We don't want to offend the people in the South there, but
that's fine.
But I guess
also,
there's always going to be a line.
We just charted your post comics career.
Oh yeah, I'm already thinking of distributors here.
Think of the color choices you could have. I see a maroon with a gold trim. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember this very distinctly. Once I had a conversation with Robert Kirkman about this because I had success with, and this is in quotes, but Hack Slash did fairly well, and then I had pitched some of the Image, and Robert was there at Image at the time I sent it, but it was like a comedic sort of superhero thing, and Robert sent me an email. He said, "Don't be the guy who followed up the massive success of a zombie apocalypse with a superhero werewolf." He's like, "Don't be that guy." So I always think of that. I mean, again, look, obviously, eventually, Wolfman worked, and eventually, right? It did work for him eventually with the animated series and stuff. But to some degree, some of that is always true. Like if you develop a sort of fandom with a certain kind of thing, it's sort of expected you keep in it. This is where pigeonholing coming from, right? You can't even sort of necessarily transition people through genres. Why would you expect you could transition them across products, right? That's a tough thing. It's I know I think about that all the time. And actually, did you hear that the Freakonomics thing this weekend about Freakonomics is this amazing thing. I'll just recommend it. Where scientifically they went into and analyzed all these creatives.
You're saying Freakonomics?
Yeah.
Okay.
On NPR, it's a show.
Yeah.
But they did the thing about.
I heard Steve on NPR.
Oh yeah, he was on Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, that was awesome. I was in the car
when I was picking up the books. Yeah, Tuesday I go around right around noon. Yeah,
and he didn't tell me he was gonna be on. I was just like, wait, is it? Wait, that's my brother. It was so weird.
Nice.
But they did this thing about how if you're creative, like when you have success, doesn't matter. And they did this whole thing about one-hit wonders. And they actually interviewed the guys from Harvey Danger, which I thought was funny because I used to work with Evan from Harvey Danger.
Sure, but I remember that dude.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But they're talking about how
something about his shoes. Did he always wear sandals in public or a weird? Yeah, okay, I remember that.
Of course. He's a cool hippie guy.
Of course,
he's a cool hippie guy. But anyway, so the thing that they came down to was that scientifically speaking, if you need to have success early, so when you're young. And then you need to replicate that for as long as possible, the same thing. So if you get successful for pop bubblegum thing, stick with it, or country or whatever, or horror movie, whatever, stick with it. And then because you've got early success and you can keep repeating that and sort of build that audience, later in life you can start messing with it. And the version of this that works, David Bowie, Madonna, right? There are people who turned early success that they stuck to, then reinvented themselves later. You can't come up with something, have it be successful, then try to reinvent yourself early, and you can't come up with something later and keep doing that because you're too old, it's too late. And that was the scientific breakdown of it.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I was going to ask you, as a music fan, like the bands that you follow, do you want each consecutive album to be the same as the album before because that's what you like, or do you want them to grow?
Oh, absolutely want them to grow. All the musicians I like are ones that have changed because but that's part of that weird thing is I still like Nick Cave because I aged with him, right?
Yeah. He
went from being this obnoxious punk guy and became this sort of suit goth old crooner.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, that's changes with me, and I wouldn't expect all artists to do that at the same time, and not everybody can do that, right? But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's can you still expect, things I listened to when I was in college or high school, I don't know, the fucking Crystal Method or something. These guys no, that music is no longer as relevant, so can you still do that?
Yeah.
And so that's a tough thing, is can you do that even in comics? Can you transform, I can't, I like doing Hack Slash, and obviously I get to do my favorite kind of book all the time, but I can't just do that. I kind of do other stuff, and I don't know, was it stupid to be oh, hey, DC hired me to do this thing. I'm going to do a spy book. Was that smart? I don't know. I mean, Do you have to stick on a thing? But think of
Yeah, but now that Spy Book just had like another printing of an omnibus.
Yeah, it keeps
so that's
working.
great. Yeah.
But think of, and this is where I come back to we're talking about James or Tom. They have a brand and they stuck to it.
Yeah.
James has a brand and he stuck to it. He always does the sort of dark fantasy or horror thing. He always does it. James never cracked out like a comedic superhero book.
Fair.
Right? He's not the guy who took the apocalyptic zombie thing and gave us a superhero werewolf, right? That was Kirkman. And so, I don't know. Maybe that's a big part of it. It's just you have to stick with a thing that people know you for. And that's part of why I went back to start just doing you know what? I've always liked drawing ladies. I like writing ladies. I think I'm kind of good with it. People know me for it. Fuck it. I'm just going to do that because I like it and people like it. And why am I fighting it?
Sure.
So, right. I try to be well, I can do other stuff. Maybe maybe just, I think you can't follow your passion because your passion eventually leads to no one buying it. But you can be sort of aware, right? That's got to be part of the job.
I'm trying to take what you're saying and applying it to my own life and my business. And I'm like, oh, I don't like the results that we're getting.
Interesting. Well, translate. Tell me.
Yes. Can't follow your passion, comics, into a successful business. Selling comics.
But you did follow it into a successful business.
Into a business. I will argue with anybody who calls us successful, knowing full well that we're a month away from our 15th anniversary.
Yeah, dude.
So, yeah.
What do you want?
I want to not worry about money.
Well, but remember the average restaurant last...
3 years? Was
yeah,
it?
3 years. 7 years is a successful restaurant.
Yeah.
The average American small business, 75% go out of business in the first year. So
fair. And we opened in 2008, right in a recession.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
In the big one.
Yeah. But we didn't. I think that worked in our favor because we weren't starting we hadn't opened, done well, and then had business tank.
Right.
We were building during that, so I think that was actually that helped.
Probably
us.
a benefit.
Yeah,
that's interesting too.
Yeah, we. I've been lucky enough that for our 15 years of business, only 1 year has gone down.
And you mentioned that was
2017.
2017.
Everybody else is up. Sometimes it's up by negligible amount, but still up. Sometimes it's up on paper, but it costs a lot more to be up, so the cost analysis doesn't even out. But we're still here. There was a level of when you work for somebody else and you get a guaranteed paycheck, you're not worried about, things like your mortgage or, God forbid, hospital bills or what have you. But when it's your name on the door, it's like, oh, those are all your problems. And then when you start hiring employees and you're responsible for their entire living, and then also their health insurance and unemployment insurance and workers' compensation insurance and all these other fees you sacrificed for yourself because you don't need those.
Right.
I'm not going to sue my company if I slip. Believe me, the number of accidents I've had in the store.
Yeah, dude, I was going to say, you just sued the shit out of yourself. You'd be like,
and I'd win every time, and then I'd lose every time.
Yeah, and again, on the side of you're doing the retail side of this, and then the absolute madness of trying to balance the thing of making up these titles and then publishing these titles and trying to have them find an audience and then hoping that they work long enough to get a collection or a trade and then figuring out how to push that trade and try to figure out there's shit that we did early that I look at as that was so fucking smart or lucky, I'm not sure, but going back with Hack Slash, we put out these omnibus. This was a thing we started Devil's Due, and then we carried over to Image. So Josh had a big part in that. That was the smartest shit we ever did because the horror fans didn't care about buying a monthly book.
Nope.
But they will absolutely drop for those.
And they don't have to follow between this is a miniseries, this is a one shot, this is a crossover.
They don't give a shit.
They just buy one book with everything's in it.
Give me a brick, I like it, I'll read it,
and
I'll tell the people to buy it. And so but we didn't. Again, that seems like a plan, but no, it was just sort of reacting, and it worked, and then we kept doing it. And in part, I think the small business thing is you got to get lucky on stupid shit a whole bunch of times, and that's weird. That's a weird thing to put on.
You can't just have one breakthrough moment.
You gotta keep being lucky, or keep making a choice that seemed like maybe it was a stupid risk and it worked. But how long can you keep that? Well, 15 years apparently.
I guess.
And 20 for me. Obviously you work in retail other sides, but it seems to work because I'm still doing it as well. But yeah, just the frustration.
Yeah, but you're not comfortable in it. You're in the same boat I am. As like, okay, so what next? Like,
That's the problem.
How do I like? I'm okay now, and I can pay my mortgage this month. What about next month?
Yeah.
And all it takes for us is a cold snap. People are like, I'm not coming in that week. Okay, but it's not like twice as many people come in next week to make up for it. It's just lost sales.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm a big fucking leftist, because we should have a goddamn national fucking net to catch me for this shit you make me take risks on, fuckers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, that's a thing, and we're never going to get that because fucking America. But you can see why small businesses and creators would really appreciate that, because we do not have that. But I mean, I don't have quite the month-to-month thing because of royalties and because of how that works, which is kind of I wish it's something that you had as a retailer. Because I have this thing where I make money on shit that I did a long time ago. And sometimes they surprise me, and I don't rely on them. They just show up and like, oh, that was cool.
You can't rely on them.
I can't.
Because
sometimes
they're
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But, that's the thing I wish kind of could be applied to the side of business that you do. Because you just have to keep hand selling the shit. That's your job.
Yeah.
Keep hand selling shit.
And there's new shit to sell all the time, which is great because we can get excited by a book like Local Man and be like, hey, this is going to be great. Steer people towards it. But Local Man isn't going to run every single month.
Well, and it's not going to. No matter what I do, it's just part of your web.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Challengers has this space. The space you're in, this is it. These bookshelves are full. New stuff comes out every week, so stuff has to go. Stuff has to get okay, we have to be very strict about what we stop reordering. I'm sorry, you haven't pulled your weight, you're gone.
Yeah.
Because we need the shelf space, and that's when we opened. We didn't have that because books were selling into the hundreds. Like the issue numbers are in the hundreds, and there weren't as many standalones, and there wasn't as much manga, and just now everything is a set book, and then they move on to the next set book, and even
I hate that.
Brubaker and Phillips, whom I love, in the last 2 years have taken up 8 inches of shelf space. So if we just carried one of each of their books, we want to keep them all in stock at all times. We don't want to just have one on the shelf, so that's a foot of space.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but then we're counting both back rooms, 1,500 square feet, which is big for a comic shop in Chicago. Apparently, not as big as there's plenty of biggers. There's plenty of small biggers. There's plenty that are bigger, and there's plenty that are smaller.
Right.
But the space doesn't grow with the product.
Right.
So you this wall of comics. That's it, man. Every single week we're pulling stacks like this off the shelf to make room.
And
I was motioning with my hands. I made
he was making a burger.
Exactly. Like a Dagwood sandwich, 2 feet maybe.
Which when I was a kid, it was first. I don't want to do comics. All you think about is the creative process, right? And then the hard reality is exactly that. It is paper that takes up space. So you get real instantly sort of this shoved in your face. Yes, it's got your dreams and all your childhood, mysteries explained, and all the people you ever wanted to meet are crammed into this beautiful book that you created. But it's paper, and it's about 8.5 by 10 or whatever, and it's got to fucking sell, right? So it's that physical reminder. That hard physical reminder is always. I always think it's interesting. The thing of what used to be the top 1/4 was the logo, and for very, very specific reasons, because they used to be stacked with the. I mean, your store doesn't do that, but some stores do.
Yeah, the fanning of the books. Yeah,
and then the thing with the spines and all that shit. If you fuck that up, or you suffer for it, right? It's crazy. And I've seen people.
If I fuck that up, you suffer for it. I do as well, but it's not just I'm hurting myself and you.
I mean, a big thing we went back and forth with Tony and I were trying to figure out about Local Man is, okay, so we know we wanted to do this flip book thing because it's important to the story that it takes place in 2 timelines, and we really loved that a sort of history of Image was that they would put out a book. Rob would put out, Youngblood 4, whatever, and he would put, Prophet on the. He was 2, Youngblood 2, or Shadowhawk in 4, whatever, and there would be a flip book. It would be here's what's coming. Here's another new idea. Like just here's your face.
Yeah.
It was like maximizing your space. That space we're talking about, the physical object. Here's the thing. It is 2 goddamn stories. It is 2 goddamn debuts. How much shit we're going to give you more than you can have. It's special, right? And we love that idea. We felt like in a world where space is a premium, we're going to give you more, right? Yeah. But we had a worry. We've got a book. It's a flip book. Is there a chance that someone doesn't recognize the logo because it's the same? We originally were going to call it like it would be the actual comic that was in there. So originally, like in Local Man 1, the flip book is 3rd gen number whatever, some issue.
So you're going to put that as a logo on the back cover,
yeah,
on the flip cover?
Yes. And then we realized that would not work because there was the small chance that some retailer would open up the box, be like, what the fuck is 3rd gen 378? I didn't order this shit. And so we couldn't do that because of that physical thing. Now, we'll see how. I think the way that we've said it now is you have a very easy sense of, this is Local Man issue 3. Yes, it's got a different kind of cover in the back. It's got a different character. It's a different style. But I hope
we plan on flipping them, so it's like it's almost like an A cover, B cover, but it's the same book.
I mean, I hope that works.
But also, at any point, if somebody brings them up and they're that way in the pile, we're gonna say, just so you know, this is the same book, just the front and back cover.
Yeah, and again.
Not that you can't buy two copies. We just want to make sure you're buying the exact same book.
Which is, again, more effort for you.
Yeah.
It would be just great if they peel off a copy.
But it's our choice to flip the covers as well.
Sure.
We don't have to.
Yeah. So we'll see if this works. Again, we're taking a risk.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit of a risk, but I want people, what we're trying to sell is this has more content than that issue of, Spider-Man or whatever. This has more content. We put more into it. This is essentially a bonus story. You didn't pay any more for it.
Yeah.
I drew it on fucking Thanksgiving, so you would have it. And
I'm getting the feeling you only draw on holidays.
I do. That's true. It's the only time I have time. I got to write and fucking teach all the rest of the time. But we'll see if that works. We took a risk doing something outside of it, but we're trying to consider, and I think we reasoned through is like, okay, issue 3 or, well, I don't want to give away issue 5, but like issue 3 is a cross-check story, so it's like cross-check number 1 or whatever 2, and we originally had it like it was going to be the cross-check logo on there, and we're not going to do that because we don't want you to confuse you. Like, what the fuck? I didn't know cross-check. Who the shit's this fucking guy? So it's Local Man. We got to keep that brand name.
Local Man Presents.
So we do have it. It does say Extra Image Presents, and like we kind of kept it. And you'll see on the alt cover, the one that we use the back for, it does say that.
I literally had. I'm gonna jump over and grab a flyer. So we chose this as the cover that we're using for the main flyer, and someone looked at it today and said, "Oh, extra image." Like that's a new thing. Like, what's extra image? It's not image. It's extra image.
That's the original, image when they would do that.
That's exactly right. But it's like, oh man, I haven't had to think about that in forever.
Oh boy, see,
but also,
these are things that mildly
concern
logo.
Me.
Yeah, it's there,
but it still says Local Man. Yeah, so I think that's the best of both worlds.
That's what Tony and I came to is like.
Okay. Plus, I love that Scooby Doo shirt. The Scooby Doo horror homage.
My Scooby Doo slasher shirt.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I just pulled this from online, obviously, but.
I ordered that, I think, off Threadless. Local. There you go.
Excellent. Yeah. Nice.
But it's, it's again, like we were trying to think of all these things. Like, I don't want to confuse retailers. I don't want to worry people, and it just seems like there's such a narrow way this works. And if you fuck with it, you risk it not working at all,
I mean, you've been in this game a very long time. You know that retailers like herding cats. You could have, you could ask 2,500 retailers how to do a thing and get 2,500 answers.
I did, and I got I mean, not 2,500, but
but I mean, whatever your sample size is, everyone's going to have a different answer.
Yeah,
and even like we're part of Comics Pro, which is the comics professional retailer organization. The whole point of it is retailers banding together to say, hey, we're like-minded. We have one voice. So if you publisher, if we're talking to you, you're a publisher. We're talking to you. We represent X 100 retailers.
Yeah,
but it's not because there's so much
diversity. Division?
Yeah.
Well, that too.
Yeah, both. in this group, and everybody has different things. And I used to be on the board of directors, and I let it go because I didn't feel like I was being used in a capacity to help everybody else, because too much of comic retail is, hey, look, I have this problem. What are you going to do for me?
Totally.
Not, we have this problem. How can it be fixed for everyone?
Which is bingo. That it's the immediacy versus long term. Which is my complaint about everything.
That's right, and that's literally exactly what we started talking about before we started recording, and when we started recording, and that
it always comes down to it.
The problem is there's no immediate solution. Like the old adage, expect the worst, prepare for the best.
Yeah.
It's hard to prepare. Wait, no, did I get it backwards? Prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst.
Expect the best. Yeah.
Or
wait, no. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst.
There you go.
Right. You were the one drinking non-alcoholic beer too. That's so weird.
Yeah, I'm not drinking.
I'm the one who can't remember anything. But it gets harder. Like that's the Challenger's way of doing things. Like, okay, here's all the things that could go wrong. Let's get ready for those. And then when they don't happen, you get complacent, and you're like, oh well, things aren't going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, what do we do now?
Then it went wrong.
It only takes one thing to go wrong to realize, oh, we are not prepared for this.
Well, it's just one of the things that we were trying to think outside the box. We're like, well, how do we get people to retailers to notice this book that we're going to come out with? So we had this idea. Back in the 90s, they used to release these ash cans. They would print up these little books, and they would send them to retailers early so you could preview the book. Obviously, before the world of PDFs and all that sort of stuff. Now you just fucking mail it, whatever. But we did it very early. We sent this thing in October, thinking this would be a great way to do it, and it worked out really nice. Tony had that. We had the book ready. We've had the book ready for a year already. So I work at Columbia. They printed for me for free. It was great. So all I had to do was find a list of retailers, and I got from Image 2,400 stores, and I just had to go through and I had 300 prints.
Yeah, you'd pick and choose. Yeah.
So I just kind of went through and I tried to do it, and expecting I'd get I'll send these out and get a reaction, right? And so I picked 300 Tony and I together about 300. We picked stores we'd been to, stores we'd heard about, stores we had friends at, whatever the case was, and we sent these out. And it was just like crickets. It was like I heard nothing, and so I was just so I reached out to it, like, hey, how did this go? Did you read it? And it was weird because a big thing I kind of found with comic readers was well, you want me to do something, right? Well, I'm giving you this thing, you can sell it on eBay or whatever, and maybe you read it, maybe you want to push it. And it's like, well, I don't, we tried something weird and I didn't get anything from it. So that's interesting, is it's like, well, okay, I guess you don't want me to do things.
Well,
then,
yes and no. I did see that Mark Tower did a big
they did a little sale for it. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
that was cool. But hopefully, and this is what we did, because not only did you send us one,
Tony sent one. Well, and I sent you two. So you had three. You had more than anybody. So yeah.
But here's what I did. I read it.
Yeah, right.
and Dal read it. We immediately started talking about it on our podcast back in October.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, this is a book we're really looking forward to for next year. So hopefully,
that maybe is the way.
Micro level, people were doing it, because just getting to read it is the best thing that we can do.
Agreed. And maybe that's the other side of it too, is a PDF. I send you out a PDF. You get a bunch of fucking PDFs.
Yeah.
And maybe this got through the noise, right? You get a bunch of people. Maybe you read it. Maybe you don't. Nobody likes. I mean, young people do, but nobody over fucking 30 likes 40 likes reading things digitally. I know I don't.
But we'll do it when we need to.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But maybe it was
But it was so great to have a paper copy.
That's
to
what
read.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even and maybe that was beneficial. I don't know.
I think that might have been the first thing I read when I moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the new library. I remember reading it in the new library.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. See? Well, then it worked one time.
But I never told you. I mean, I think I told you I liked it, but I never told you specifically I got the ash can, I read it, I liked it. So I apologize for that.
No. I know retailers busy also, but maybe this was also just sort of me screaming in the dark.
That's your whole career. You create in a void.
Right.
And if you don't have somebody responding to it.
In an office overlooking a fucking Dollar Tree. I would just, somebody fucking tell me something.
Dollar Tree is my favorite local dollar store.
It is pretty good.
I don't care about Dollar General at all.
Fuck Dollar General.
I do have a Tony story. When they first announced Stray Dogs, and I knew him as the My Little Pony writer.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah.
So they announced Stray Dogs, and my initial take was, this is a movie pitch. This is not a cash grab, but this is they're just trying to get a Hollywood thing. This is so this is such a Disney idea.
Yeah.
It's obviously a pitch, and I may have vocalized that. At the same time, I was having a problem where my car engine didn't have my model car at that time didn't have an engine cover. And rats were constantly building nests in the engine, but to do it, they were chewing through the distributor wires because they were in the way. So multiple times I had to pay up to $1,000 to fix my engine.
Oh, God.
And I had mentioned that as well. Tony Fleece, co-creator of Local Man, writer of Stray Dogs, an artist in his own right as well as a writer, sent me a box of mothballs to the store with a note basically saying, I have integrity, I assure you, like, I'm doing this for the love of comics. This is not a movie pitch. I don't know him. I've never met the man.
Yeah.
But he heard me say a thing that was not at all who he was about.
True.
And I fully acknowledge that I was wrong. And I really enjoyed Stray Dogs. But, like, that dude, like, sent me this care package for my car to say, hey, man, give me a chance.
But it was also a little bit of a fuck you.
Oh, yeah. I'll take it, though. Yeah, no, like, the fact that it was the mothballs, great.
Hilarious. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it could... Look, screaming into the dark, man.
Yeah.
Just, like, that thing.
But also, that move earned him so much capital in my head, but you can't do that for 2,500 stores.
No. I mean, and that's the thing is, I can't sit and send 2,500 of anything anywhere.
Yeah.
And also is international shipping, because a lot of the American counts for Diamond are actually in Europe and
yeah, I felt a little
Mexico.
bad because you came to me and said, like, hey, who do you like out of this list? And I gave you all the international retailers I know.
Yeah. I mean, I think I did send a couple, but it is so...
I know. We don't do international shipping here.
Drastically more expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, for me to send...
going up all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, Brexit didn't help, so thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, UK. But, I want to say it was like $18 to send it to Ireland or $1.30 to send it to fucking
Nebraska.
Idaho or whatever. Yeah. So, and again, I don't know if it ends up working. But like I told you, and you helped me out with those lists. Like, I'm just always trying to think of who wants to try some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
it goes back to the James Lucas Jones theory of back when he was with Oni. He would rather try to get the Oni loyal stores to order 5 or 10 more copies of a book than to get 100 stores to order one.
And he's right. And you and I have talked about this before. A majority of comic shops probably only carry Marvel, DC, and then like Spawn and right.
So a couple years ago, I was talking to a guy who used to do numbers for The Beat, and he gave me the statistic that his research showed that only 50% of stores in America, comic shops in America, carried anything beyond Marvel, DC, Image. And even Image was just a handful. And that blows my mind. Like, look at our shelves. There's everybody up there. And we don't...
Yeah.
There's publishers we don't carry. There's, like, Keen Spot. That's a joke. That's a joke. You can go under the L section and see Lucky over there.
Well, I mean, no. And again, I did that as an experiment because we could talk about... I was just like, let's try something.
Yeah,
I don't
of
know.
course.
This is a small publisher. Let's try it and just have fun. And they have a group of fans that are different than, so I'll always try shit.
Of
and
course.
sometimes I feel like, well, here's the other weird part of that. Do you think trying shit, because they're not always successful, like works against one's brand? So like I was saying, like you have to do things that are on brand. If you only do things that work all the time, that you are known to work, and you try some shit for as an experiment and it doesn't, does that harm your brand overall?
No.
Do people associate that with
because
you?
the people that aren't buying it may not even know it exists.
True.
Or they're not buying it because it's you, or they're not like, oh, this guy's doing a book about a superhero cat lady. Go
Right.
figure. That's 100% a brand, by the way.
Sure. But I only plotted that. I gave it to someone else to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's an experiment. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing.
But
Hey,
I
I'll
mean,
try.
I don't. Sometimes I have to wonder. I don't want to use this person as an example because I'm a big fan of their stuff and we've had a ton of events with them. But also, I would sneeze. Nope. They're Cullen Bunn.
Sure.
He's written for everybody, and right now he's writing for so many different places, and having his name pop up, companies don't matter that much anymore. It used to be the prestige of, you're doing a Marvel book, you're doing a DC book, you're doing an Image book. That was it. There was a time years ago when I would say, like, hey, going back to James Lucas Jones, if Kaiju Max was put out through Image, we could have sold 3 times as many.
True.
Shouldn't matter who puts it out. It's
Yeah.
a great book. It should sell no matter what. But there was a point where Image had cachet. It meant something. The market is different now. I'm not saying Image doesn't mean anything. I'm saying that people don't have any, not company loyalty, that's the wrong phrase, but the publisher doesn't matter as much anymore because the products are interchangeable and you can have a book be at,
Sure.
whether it's at Vault or whether it's at Dark Horse or whether it's at Image or whether it's at AWA, it's not that different. Like all those,
You're right.
all those publishers publish the same things.
That's actually happened in this is interesting because you're saying a true thing that's also happened in media. It used to be that if a show came out, you'd be like, that is definitely an HBO show. You would just know.
Yeah, yeah.
The branding of the things that they would do.
HBO was different from Cinemax, which is different from Showtime.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Now, that could have been a Netflix show, that could have been a Hulu show.
Yeah.
All they're all trying to do is each get some part of that audience. So,
Yeah.
each of them has one vampire show and one crime show and one slice of life comedy and one, right? Now,
Yeah, so-
yeah.
So it doesn't matter and it doesn't dilute your brand because it only dilutes your brand if there's somebody who's following and just doing everything you get,
Yeah.
which I think no one does that in comics anymore.
No.
The people that buy Something is Killing the Children and House of Slaughter, only half of them bought Closet. Like you think it's a perfect hand sell. It's perfect for this. If you go back, like look at God, I can't remember the he did a trio of books for Boom that were all internet horror based stuff. We're talking about Tynan again. Where Memetic. No, that's not what it's called.
Yeah, mimetic.
Memetic, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Memetic was the start, and he's building on those concepts now, but
Yeah.
those books didn't really do anything back then because he wasn't James Tynan yet, even though he's doing the same work, the
Yeah,
same
this
kind
makes-
of thing.
it's so weird.
But, we did a bunch of Substacks first year Substack, and then we got rid of most of them, but we still do Zdarsky because it's A+ every single time. We still do Tynan because we get all the advanced looks at his Alien book, there's a poster right here. I have to look at it. Blue something. Nope, this is Christopher Chaos on this side. That's it. But anyway, his
Another James book, yeah.
But his book with Michael Avon Oming,
Yeah.
the UFO one, it's
Project
Blue Book. Blue Book,
Project
yeah,
Blue Book,
thanks. So I've read all of Blue Book before it comes out. I read the whole thing. I know how good it is. I don't think the people that read Nice House on the Lake are going to jump to it
Why?
because it's so different.
See, that comes back to this branding thing, though. You're right. That's it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
all comes down to this. So that's a problem. Like, I guess maybe in the grand theory, the thing that you said of the publisher doesn't matter anymore because people aren't buying all the publisher stuff. But the branding thing, as far as the creator, doesn't matter as much because there's no overarching sort of brand for anything beyond this is a thing you like and you might like this other thing. And there's no I'm going to try this, right? Because we don't know. It could be an HBO show. It could be a Hulu show. I don't know.
Yeah. I love guitar player George Lynch, mainly known for Dokken, but he's probably the musical recording artist I have the most iterations of because he does collaborations, joint projects, new bands with everybody. And I'll try it all because that dude shreds.
Yeah.
But he's had some funk stuff. Didn't work for me.
Sure.
But I still tried it. But also, now with Apple Music, there's no financial risk for me trying
Sure,
new
of
music.
course.
But I mean, this
Yeah.
is stuff I used to buy, and there's some stuff I'm like, this is great, and some stuff it's bad. But I learned a long time ago, I can't use myself as an example for anything. I'm not your average comics buyer. I'm not your average music buyer. I'm not just because this marketing would work on me. I'm not my customer.
Yeah.
People don't buy the way I do. I can't use myself as a metric, as a bar for measurement of any
God,
capacity.
do you think that's why we're so oriented in this idea of influencer culture? Because no one knows, and they just want someone who tells everybody what to do?
Oh, also, but if you look at any successful influencer, no one can tell you why they're successful.
No.
All they can say is, oh, I want a piece of that, or I want them to do it for me. they don't know what works or why it doesn't, and the influencers
Yeah, it's all
don't
kind
either.
of a lie. It's bullshit.
It is all. It is, yeah. And
interesting.
you and I were talking about basically comic influencers before we started recording.
Yeah.
And how it really... I have to...
Well, if I could,
Please,
while you think
please,
about
please,
it,
yeah.
Well, one of the things when I started, knowing sort of the business of comics and stuff, you read mainstream news, CNN covers a comic story, and you realize everything they fuck up because now you know the inside. You're like, holy shit, do they do that for everything?
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
I hear the influencer guys, I'm like, oh god, they're just fucking everything up. Oh god, is that how all the influencers are? Do they not know any of the things that they're talking about?
Or is that how everything is perceived outside of our realm
Right.
for people that don't understand it the way we
Yeah,
do? And
yeah.
so my problem, and this is me specifically, I'm not talking for you. I think we're like-minded on this, but being comic book lifers, we feel that there's a level of not authority when we talk about something, but there is literally when you go to the doctor and they talk to you for 5 minutes and bill you for $500. You're like, what is this? How does that balance out? Well, it's a lifetime of experience you're
Right.
paying for.
An expert.
You and I have the lifetime of experience.
Absolutely.
So when I'm telling somebody, I think you're going to like this book, I think it should carry some weight.
I 100% agree.
I'm never going to say this is a good book and you're wrong if you don't like it, but I'm going to say I think you'll like it because of this, or I like it because of that. But also, it's because when I'm saying that, I'm talking to someone that I've hopefully built up a personal relationship with, somebody who's been shopping at the store for a while, someone who's come to know my experience and my tastes, and so there's weight behind what I'm saying versus someone on the internet who's like, oh, you should buy this book because it's the first appearance of a character.
Agreed.
Now, if they buy the book, again, is it wrong? Is there a wrong way to buy a book? Is there a wrong way to engage with a book? It's just different from what we do, but it's still...
You find it kind of annoying.
It still hurts my feelings.
It annoys. It should be
Yeah.
fucking annoying. Yeah, I agree with you. It's and again, maybe on the sort of retail level, it's not quite the same as like the death of experience, which I think experts, right? The death of experts is a big thing, right? Like it used to be expertise was valuable, and now it's sort of just like, well, I don't know. Did you have a lot of confidence when you delivered it? I guess good enough, Which is why people listen to fucking Donald Trump or other dumb people who don't know anything. They deliver it with a certain amount of confidence.
But I mean, look, using that guy as an example, I'm like, it's all complete bullshit.
But it's spoken with confidence.
Yeah,
And
man.
in an era where like people don't, maybe that's it. Maybe we just figured out the grand theory. No one knows what's true, so at least all you have to do is deliver with confidence, and I believe you.
Well, I feel the difference is that the majority of what people believe in a political public forum is when somebody is being negative about something. No
Sure.
one believes it when you're saying positive things about a thing.
Unless you're saying it about yourself.
Yeah, right. But like if you're saying like, oh, I believe in this person, they're great. Like here's the good things they've done with examples, not just saying like, oh, they're great. Like you can't just say someone's great and expect you to believe it. Same way I can't just say public domain is great. I need to tell you why it's great.
True.
I'll happily do so.
Yeah. I mean, I've relied on your recommendations for years.
For real, you have. But
Yeah.
also, we have a rapport, and I think I know what you'll like.
Yeah.
And you'll also tell me, no, I don't like that. So that helps
Yeah.
curate our ability to recommend things. And it goes
Yeah.
back and forth. You tell me when things are good. You tell me things
Yeah.
that are coming out I don't know about. And this isn't just comics. It's music. It's movies. It's all that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
You've also given me so many opportunities in the industry outside of selling comics. I've inked you personally on books.
Oh, yeah.
You've hired me to do stuff for Trauma, for Loaded Bible.
That's right.
Like my portfolio is like half stuff I did for Boomer IDW and half I did for you. And then you also came to me and Crank and said, hey, form this band. Form Acid Wash.
Oh, yeah.
And not only did we do it, we kept doing it after you did we did that Christmas song.
It was awesome.
And it was so much fun because you're like, hey, because you want to do something extra, something
Yeah.
outside of the box.
Yeah.
And you can turn, there's people you can turn to. They're like, hey, I'm not going to write the song.
Yeah.
I'll give you titles, but
Yeah.
you guys go record this. And it was a blast. And those songs still fucking hold up.
I mean, so and remember that fucking commercial with
Yeah, for Colt Noble.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've been doing stupid shit for a long time.
But they're all your ideas because you're like, hey, I'm going to do an action figure based. I'm going to do my own He-Man. Let's do a commercial.
Yeah.
And Chris Burnham kicked my then 6-year-old nephew in the dick.
Yeah, and that was like the beginning of sort of putting stuff on YouTube too. You know, when I think about it, it's like, I don't know, outside the box, but too early or too dumb.
That was so sophisticated, like full camera crew, special effects,
I know.
lighting, the whole thing. Like I sang that.
I
Colt
built
Noble,
a set.
You built the set. Dun 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 dun. I sang that Colt Noble so many times that day, and then I had to do that the tagline really fast.
Oh yeah, because I had like a little bit of time.
Yeah, but like just to because not like the Micro Machine guy who talks to me, but I had it because it was the whole thing was a joke. Because it was all like fun commercial 80s commercial tagline joke stuff that had to blow through, but all that stuff comes from you.
All right, with this master of the dull body, I'm totally gonna score some chicks.
It's a fresco.
Colt Noble, Archfiend figure sold separately.
Colt Noble!
An archfiend, and here to commit some evil to prevent you from trapping any ass. Knife brought henchman.
Doogie bomb!
You jerk, you don't play with that knife.
Your mom doesn't play with it nice.
Colt Noble, Archfiend, and Hoodoo Hat's figures are new from Colt Noble and the Legolands. Only from Image.
Did it work? I don't know. I mean,
I
Colt Noble,
loved it.
Yeah, it was fun. We made fun stuff, and in the end, Colt Noble sold okay, but it got me work on He-Man. So there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess that's
But I mean, you're really good at coming up with really fun. Just one of my favorite words to use today is nonsense. And that's my business. My business is nonsense.
It's all nonsense. None of it matters.
Whenever somebody says hey, I need issue 4, I'm like, no, you don't. Nothing in this store is need.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you want it. I'm happy to get it for you. But you could live your life without that book. But I don't think I could live my life without this store.
Sure,
But I wouldn't want to. It wouldn't be as fun. But like to finish off the praise, you have all these great ideas, but you're also so good at bringing other people into it. You're like, hey,
sure.
do this with me.
Yeah, because I don't want to do stuff by myself. I'm a lonely person.
But you also make it
in my heart. I'm a lonely person.
So much fun for the rest of us.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean that again with like Logo Man. It's like I want to do this book, but there's no fun in this if I'm not jamming with somebody about things that are nostalgic for us or the best parts of this weird stuff. And Tony's that guy.
Yeah,
right. He's the guy. I've met him multiple times over the years, but we were at a convention like literally the first I got COVID at that convention, probably from Tony, but it was in January.
Did he send you a box of COVID like he sent me a box of mothballs?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
A bastard. It was like January 2020, and we were all sitting around in Long Beach or something, and we were just talking about like 90 stuff. And
I miss the Long Beach shows, man.
So
Those
good.
were so much fun.
Yeah, it's like such a low key, so much fun.
So many metal bands would play.
Oh yeah,
there. Yeah,
because
cool we're right by LA.
Yeah, it's like, but it's like, it's not the the cool, hip, pretentious part of LA. It's like the, where entertainment is like for the people.
Do you remember Stuart Morales from Wizard Magazine?
Yeah.
That dude was a metalhead like myself, and we used to get together at every con. I'm cutting off your story. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
At the time, there was a band I loved that played LA every weekend called Starwood. It's just Lizzie Borden, but under a different name and more glam rock than 80s rock, which is weird. It's like 70s rock versus 70s metal versus 80s.
Sure, absolutely.
But they were playing like every weekend in LA. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be in Long Beach. LA is not that far away. I could like just get a car and go. Are they playing in LA this weekend? They're not. They're playing in Long Beach, 3 blocks from the hotel, on a bill with Quiet Riot, Skid Row, and I don't know, Bullet Boys or somebody. I'm like, this is insane.
Long Beach is your town.
Yeah, so Stuart and I got a group of people, and we just had a great time. That was the first time I ever paid like $12 for a cocktail. And I'm like, Long Beach sucks.
Oh, that was coming for you. You were the Herald of Galactus coming to.
That's right. So anyway, you're in Long Beach. You're with Tony,
but we were talking about the kind of 90 comics. There's this sort of conversation that's always associated with 90 comics, like, oh, they have pouches and no feet and whatever. But we're like, there was an energy to it, even if it wasn't always good. There was a lot of people trying fun shit, like, you know, we talked about Bill Mouse and like, you know, the Eternity comics and Near X and like, you know, Matt Martin and doing Vortex and all this stuff, you know. Ethan Van Sciver doing Cyberfrog. All this sort of stuff.
I actually got hired from Brainstorm Comics to ink Vampirus Leggera versus
Kirk
Razor.
Lindo. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's my area.
And I got the gig. I got the pages. And this was, you know, way pre-digital, and before you were scanning everything and printing Blue Line and doing it. So I was working on the pages. The paper was horrible. And I did everything crow quill, and it was shredding the paper.
Oh, God.
And I was best man in my friend Bob's wedding that weekend, and I had to miss the rehearsal dinner because I'm on deadline. And I kill myself to get this book done. Never published.
That's right. I was going to say, I've never read Vampirotica versus Razor.
Vampirus Leggera.
Oh, Leggera, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, she was in the book Vampirotica.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
This is my area, Pat. But it had this sort of DIY energy to it.
I worked on that fucking book. But yeah.
Oh,
so,
that's, which we talked about, that's what we loved about it. It wasn't necessarily like the things that, you know, I think I remembered about it. But it was just like, hey, you know how Youngblood came out and it was like it wasn't polished yet and it really wasn't like perfect, but it was fucking full of ideas and it was so much fun and
it was different.
And it was different. And there was this whole sort of thing that followed that of 90s comics where, you know, Razor was one of them. There was just all these people like, I don't give a fuck, here's the thing. And they were unpolished and sometimes they were terrible, but they were always cool and they were always like kind of interesting. So that was kind of what we actually bonded about. It wasn't specifically Youngblood and Savage Dragon and Spawn, because obviously that's part of the story. But, you know, we were talking about like, you know, Vortex and Creed and like all these like 90s things, which are probably forgotten to most people. But they were informative to us because they showed you something where, join us, you can do it. Right?
Yeah, something that is different and something that was within reach.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like one of the things we talked about with doing Local Man is like, can we do a story about potential and nostalgia? Like where those cross over, where they're the same, where they're very different. Because in a lot of these sort of, and going just back to the image or 90s comics analogies, like a lot of those things had potential that wasn't reached, obviously. And some of the things we have nostalgia for were not as good as we remember, but some of it was better. And so the character in the book is like, he's that guy. I could have been a contender. I could have been something. He had the brass ring. Yeah, and he loses it. Yeah. Right. And one of the things that Tony and I both shared is a very specific nightmare, and I have it still to this day. Oh no. Yeah, it is in the nightmare. I have basically somehow lost whatever jobs I had, and I have to move back to my hometown, and then. And look, it's a lovely place, but I have a terrible fear about it. And all the people that have died have come back to life, and there's a murder mystery. Oh, sorry, there's a different nightmare, but same town, yeah. But I see somebody I went to high school with, and they say something to the effect of, "Oh, I thought you were doing something interesting, or I thought you were doing something cool, and you're here." And I don't know why that's such a specific nightmare, and I know it's fucked up, but this idea that like, well, I told you all I was going to leave, and I told you all I was going to do comics. And I did, and then it ended, and I'm here again. Those people are there too. I know, but it's this douchey. I know it's shitty, but it's also this thing of like, I built my whole character about I'm going to do this thing, and it's true. I did it, but then to lose it is what my nightmare is. And so that's Jack's story, right? He said he was going to be this great hero, and he went off and he did it, and now he's here again, and everybody hates him, and he's like, that. It's such a specific
Is there a point in, because I've only read the first issue, is there a point in this series where we find out what caused him?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's not, so we kind of imply what got him ticked off. Right. And I mean, I don't want to ruin anything, but it's not what you think it is. Okay. Because I do It's implied. Okay. But I do think there's a level of... Absolutely. It's a book I did. Yeah. Yeah. I was making a lewd gesture with my hands. It is definitely about sex, but it's not what you think it is. Okay. And that's going to be, it's implied in the first issue that it seems, well, I don't want to give anything away. I feel like whatever it's going to be, it's not going to be deserved. Like, he didn't deserve to have this happen. But I'll withhold judgment until... I'll let you decide. All right, that's fair. That's fair. But it's... So what it's a really personally, for the character, and then for us to sort of like talk about this what we wanted this story to be is like, what is sort of the worst things that you've done that you sort of feel gross about and you wish you had done? And when you're a kid, like
I worked for graham crackers.
nice. But when you're a kid, like you're 15 years old, and you see this future in front of you, you see this world that you're going to live in, all the things you want to do. What you don't think of is all the things you will someday be like, oh, I can't believe I did that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this weird thing about all the things I'm going to do, and there's never the, oh, but that was like a really horrible thing I did. And everybody's done something they regret.
Sure.
And it's so interesting to sort of like see this plan you make when you're young and like this big potential that you have, and you may reach it. But then there's always like the potential you have to do things that are terrible, right? Or gross, or you would be ashamed of, or they're awful. And it's like, I know doesn't seem like be a thing you would see in a comic about a team of superheroes that looks kind of like Youngblood and Wildcats fucked each other in the faces. But it is. It's what the story is. And it's, that's what I think is the personal thing. I hope that's what people connect to.
I just wrote down a thing that is one of my biggest regrets, a thing that I did when I was younger that I'm pretty sure you don't know, and I'm not going to vocalize it right now, but I will show it to you.
Holy shit! What?
So you've never heard that story?
No!
Okay. All right. Well,
you're not going to put it on the podcast?
Hell no!
Statute of limitations?
Oh no. Legally, I'm well beyond it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Well, Pat,
Yeah.
that's a story I have to hear.
Yeah. I did want, before we got too far away from like all the 90s stuff, I did want to point out that I was with a small group of people last week, and they were talking about Faust. And they were like two different sides talking at the same time. And as they're talking, I stopped and I said, are you talking about the comic book, the Tim Vigil comic book?
Quinn?
Or are you talking about the opera? They were talking about different. These people thought they were talking about the comic. These thought they were talking about the opera, and the discussion still worked.
Well, it's the same basic story.
Right. It's
One
just
of them has claws and a red costume over a purple leotard. And, and again, they just had an awesome, huge Kickstarter for that book, and I missed it because I was out of town with no internet in Wisconsin.
But yeah,
like,
they just loved I'm like, wait.
That's amazing.
Are you talking like highbrow people? Us lowly comic people? What are you talking about?
Faust.
The same thing. Yeah. The same thing. Like, neither like, oh, there's a comic book? Oh, no, you're talking about the opera? Yeah. Like, all right, great. And I'm just in the middle going, it works.
That's incredible. That book actually, again, big influence on just sort of my whole thought process. Because when I was a kid, these comics that we call them now Rebel comics or raw comics, like, and I know Jim Rugg and those guys are big proponents of these books. But like, you used to be able to sort of get comics that made you feel kind of dirty, and that's I try so hard to make sure I do some comics that make you feel a little icky, right? Like, I hope Money Shot every once in a while, like, you laugh, but you're also kind of like, oh, I don't want anybody to see this because I liked it too much. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that was what I always liked about Faust. I'd be like, this was incredible and raw, and it was just like, it was just pure id poured out on the page, and it's amazing. But I'm definitely not going to let my girlfriend see it.
We were just talking about the upcoming Money Shot artist.
Yeah,
Giselle Legrasse.
Legacci, right?
Legacci. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I can speak French. I don't know how to say it. Well, she's French Canadian, right?
French Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different. And all of her Menage a Three and the picture trick stuff, and like I love that stuff, but it's like, I'm gonna put this down here on the bookshelf just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your public face is all fucking Watchmen and Eisner's
exactly.
work, yeah, and then
but you go down like, oh, there's a Larry Wells box.
Totally.
I just did his Kickstarter for.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't tell you who's the big one. I feel like I'm gonna ruin it. Let's do it here.
Okay.
Do you know who the big guest star in the next Money Shot arc is? Cherry's
Cherry?
fucking pop star.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's the big star.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
God, Cherry was. You remember, of course, Aircell comics.
Oh yes, absolutely.
The
I have
Aircell
a box of comics just for my Aircell stuff.
I believe it. Aircell was a big deal because they started using airbrushes in the comic art before anybody else did, but also mainly porn.
Well, they were weird because they didn't do just porn. They had a whole line, but they had the whole Barry Blair stuff, and then they had Chuck Austin. Chuck Austin.
Chuck Beckham.
Well, Austin did that.
Chuck Beckham was his name back then.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he wasn't
right.
Chuck Austin until they got married.
Right. Because he was doing that baseball porn comic.
Hardball.
Hardball. Yeah, absolutely.
I liked Hardball.
It's great. I mean, you
still
can
have
see
it
the guy
somewhere.
had chops.
Yeah.
He had chops,
Yeah. I mean, he did strips for a long run of strips,
Yes,
then he did Hardball.
Yeah. I just recently bought. I was missing an issue of Hardball that I picked up, and so that's also stuff I love because it was underground. It was never going to be this sort of mainstream thing.
But like strips in Hardball were also fun relationship comics.
Yeah.
That had sex in them.
that's which I loved. Omaha.
Yeah.
Omaha the Cat Dancer is one of
Yeah.
my favorite indie comics of all time. Yeah, it had sex in it, but it was really like this. It was a thing you weren't getting in other comics.
It wasn't about the sex.
Right, and you weren't getting that in any other media. It was porn certainly wasn't doing that in the 80s or 90s, right? Porn in the 80s and 90s is no story. It's all, big hair and fucking fake boobs. And this was a story like, it was sex, but it was also people stuff, which is, a thing I've always wanted to do. And that kind of,
And the best comics all boil down to the relationship, whether it be with, a romantic interest or the relationship of
the hero and the enemy.
Hero and the enemy, a hero and their mom,
Yeah.
a hero and a newspaper publisher, whatever. It's the relation, like the drama of the superhero story is one thing, but you have to connect on a personal level to a relationship, which is fundamentally on most things. And I'm sure people can give me off the top of their head dozens of examples where that doesn't fit. But
nope. They can't. It's always people shit. It's always people shit. Silver Surfer doesn't work if it's not because he has guilt, because he hurt all these people.
And if there's no Shalabal,
he has no stakes.
There's no Norrin Rad.
Right, there's no right, exactly.
There's no guilt. There's no, this is why I have to go do this to him. Yeah.
And then also, though, Galactus is weirdly a father figure, so though he has to fight against him, he's also his caretaker and saved him and all this sort of shit. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah.
Stan Lee knew that. Dude, that's the whole thing, right? Stan knew that. It's all Shakespearean drama.
It's all Shakespearean drama.
With big fucking gods and shit.
Yeah.
And
all women played by men.
Right. Yes. Keep it real hot that way. All those classicists were super into man on man love with wigs. That's
Sure. Uh-huh.
Foundation of American Western culture is that
men
right
with
there.
wigs.
Yeah. Drag shows for kids.
Which are so prevalent nowadays. It's great. Drag brunches or story time with drag queens is great.
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
You go out anywhere else.
But I still mean the concept of it is a great idea and a thing that should be
This is obviously a thing going off a little bit of a side. Before pandemic, Valentina was fresh as shit. One of the first things we did...
Valentina is your daughter.
My daughter. One of the first things we ever did with her, she was like 2.5 months old, when we were going out. We took her to a drag brunch because we just, and we're like, this is wonderful, so funny. All these little kids are laughing their ass off. They don't know. It's just entertaining.
Yeah.
It's a clown show. They
Sure.
don't know. And then I posted on the internet like a photo of like me with Valentina and like a drag queen. And immediately some fucking right-wing nutter was like, you're tormenting your child. I was like, huh? I didn't know that was going to set up the next fucking 2 years of American politics.
Man.
2 or 3 years, right? Insane. I was like, I thought nothing of it other than like, well, we had something to do on a fucking Saturday morning.
I hope you still go to them with her now.
Oh, wait. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been out to brunch in however long because I have a fucking 3-year-old. But if I did...
Do you remember, and this just came up earlier today, do you remember we used to do brunch on Sundays? Like, not every Sunday, but like once a month, we'd go to a different restaurant each time.
That was great. Yeah, I remember...
It was such a long time ago.
Well, we went to Wishbone. We went to a bunch of places.
Yeah, we went to Lula. We went to... I can't remember the names of the places. Half of them are gone now. The only rule was they had to have a Bloody Mary. God, do you remember we did that?
Holy shit, Pat. That's so long ago.
What was the name of it? One of the best breakfasts I ever had was, this place was kitty corner to Shuba's. It was a place where everything was a bar, like a omelet bar or a pancake bar or a waffle bar, and they had dessert pancakes. We were there. I can't remember who. Like there was a sizable, like there was like 8 of us, I think. And that place is long gone. But I loved it. Like, it was such a great day.
Was that they cooked the stuff in front of you? Like, they cooked the pancakes and you put, like, shit in...
Yeah, but you had to go to... we had
With
to,
the
we had to go
station.
to, yeah, exactly, stations.
Crap, I'm not going to remember the name
but
of
I
the
mean, you
place.
know exactly where I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, right over on Lincoln over there.
In Southport, yeah.
Yeah, it's in
right?
Southport, yeah.
Literally,
yeah.
like, Shuba's is here. Shuba's,
I remember that place.
Right kitty corner, like northwest corner. But yeah, like that was a blast.
My God, you're like throwing all these things that the last like 3 years have just been so compacted in the same place that it seemed like the rest of the world faded away.
I think
so
that
weird.
a lot of what the pandemic did is just dull the memories of the things because that was a
We
thing
didn't get
we would
reminders
do
of them.
regularly.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
it wasn't a special occasion. It was this is what we're doing this weekend kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now it's a Herculean effort to be like, we're going to get out of the house and do this thing, and then if you ever even want to, sorry, text from a
Oh, I
a
understand.
specific person.
I got it.
The phone's
I
facing...
knew right away, Pat. I knew exactly what it was.
The phone is facing me, so when the text come in, I can look at it. Tim can't see it. But when I stop talking and cock my head sideways, I'm like, oh, yes.
I knew it wasn't like an offer from fucking Grubhub, Pat. I knew what it was. I mean, you know.
Right. And that's because we've known each other for a long time. But, like, the point of now it's just this thing like, oh, and then just wrangling anybody else.
Yeah,
and
it's
the
tough.
groups that we had are all so splintered.
Yeah.
And it's all
Some
different
people have
groups.
kids and
It's,
stuff
yeah.
now and shit, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, man. Yeah. We
But
know
you
how
know
good
what's
we had it.
Wait, we didn't. And I'm still trying to be like, no, but I did these things. Let's still do these things.
I know. Hey, man, I'm up for doing some shit now.
I know it.
And my kid is able to do things, so.
Nice.
I don't know. Well, you know, and again, like, I think I responded to the pandemic stuff, and the reason, and we're joking about, but the reason I have so many fucking books on the shelf, and probably the reason Colin does, and all that we talked about is because during the pandemic, I just worked, man. And I like, to not think about how much I hated not being around people, I just made shit.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure a book that's partially sort of in this 90s-ish is in part me just dealing with, right? Like, good old days. I want to go
So
back
what?
to, you know. Right, exactly. Well, I'm not alone. I'm sure that's a
Yeah.
huge part of it. But you know, definitely into, like, getting back out and dealing with things, like, in life as they happen, not by making comics about them 30 years later.
So the main reason, like, obviously, you're signing at Challengers on February 22nd. It's a Wednesday. You'll be here at 11 o'clock for the release of Local Man #1. But this conversation that people just got to hear, this is what happens whenever we start talking about the industry.
Right.
And I always say, like, I want to sit down and talk to Tim because we're coming from the same sides of things. You have a completely different way of looking at things.
Sure.
And you honestly explain things in a way that I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's how to verbalize it. And
I wish you could do that with my wife.
I can't help you with that. But whenever I'm down on the industry and you're down on the industry, I get worried about the industry.
Yeah.
But then we talk about it and I'm like, no, man, comics are still fucking great.
No, the comics are never the problem.
And they're never the problem.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, and you and I talked about this before. I never go through this period where I'm like, yeah, everything sucks right now. Everything's good to read. It's like, no, the problem is there's so much good stuff. That's the problem.
Yeah, like,
I've never been through a period where I was like, there's just nothing good. You know,
this is what I tell people. There's plenty of good comics out there. The problem is there's so many you can only afford to buy the great ones.
Yeah, that sucks too. Yeah, right.
And
agreed.
Another problem with being an adult collector is not the money, it's where you put it.
Yeah.
We talked before about you're buying a physical thing, it takes up space on a shelf.
Yeah.
You know, some people have a rule like you bring one in, you take one out.
Sure.
Things like that. There's so many great books I want people to read, but people are like, yeah, I'll read this, but I don't know what to do with it when I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, and we just talking about that 90s thing is, I didn't have that problem. I was buying shit. I knew it was shit, but it was inventive and that was good enough. And yeah, you're right. I don't do that anymore. I only buy things that you say are great or I know are great or win some fucking award. Like, I kind of miss, like, just taking a chance on some kid, you know, making some, I mean, that's probably why I teach, I guess. Because I can take a chance and I get paid to do it.
So here's what I need you to do. Like, what the people that you're teaching illustration, comic writing, I don't know what you're teaching.
I teach cartooning and concept art.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Comics is basically.
are
cartoon.
they like 101s too? Like, what levels are they? Introductory?
So my cartoon class is it's a 101 class, but because it's in the interactive arts and media, it is taken by people all the way up to 300 level.
Okay.
So
here's what I need, not want.
Yeah.
Need from you. 15 years in this store.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder to find the new people, the next people to get excited about. You
Sure.
know? Over our time, you know, we've had our Andrea Bells and our Rachel Bards and the people that we never knew about, but then like, oh, we love their stuff, but we don't. The older I get, the harder it is to find the younger people coming in who have the potential and who's are like, oh, you're gonna do something, you're gonna be something.
Yeah.
So when there's people that you're teaching that have it, And,
Yeah.
and definitely if they're putting stuff out on their own or whatever, let me know so we can help them.
Oh, I do it all the time. And one of the things that I've really try to encourage with my students, this is perfect. I had a meeting with a kid today who he's got an independent study, and I'm going to be his
Mentor.
His mentor, I guess. What student advisor? I don't know, whatever advisor. I don't know what the fuck it is. Anyway, but I signed on to do this. I met with him today. This kid's incredible, and I told him, okay, he's like, oh, well, here's the comic. It's like, great, but you're not going to just make the comic. Also, part of your assignment is you need to set up a meeting with a store. So I told him to come to your store. He lives down the street. So,
Sure.
So I was thinking the same thing as you.
Love it.
So I'm already trying to do that. But the kids are great. That's the thing. I keep telling you that the kids are fine. The kids are going to make comics. They're still going to make comics. They're not going to stop reading comics. They love the art form. They care about creators. Like I tell people all the time. But when I deal with the Zoomers, I don't get a cynicism at all. I always come out and like, oh, they might save us.
Great.
Just in general, I get that impression. The problem, I think, and it's the things you and I talk about, is that, we're not sort of helped by anything else. You can't take risks because we don't have insurance. It's like all these things those are the things I worry about. Those are things making it harder for us to do things. And then also, harder to print things. It's harder to get attention because of the screaming, competing with the internet and competing with, all these attention grabs, right? I don't fear the kids and their lack of interest. I fear like tech bros and oligarchs and like all this is the stuff I think we have to worry about. This is what we're fighting against, and like that's what's making comics hard now. Is it's expensive and it's the corporations are a huge problem. Is the corporations are all sort of conglomerating and so when they do that they take less risks. They cut out the parts of the industry, their particular business that were risk taking. Right? I mean, Warner Brothers cutting out some of these programs that they had, and Disney and all these sort of things. These are the things I worry about. And I think that's the thing we're always fighting.
So.
We're not fighting the future. Comics are in the best position I would say been in since the 50s. There are probably more people reading comics right now than there have been in you and I's lifetime.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
Yeah.
Like, I have been doing this 32 plus years, and I remember what a weekly take was when I first started doing this, like for a store.
Yeah.
And I remember working at a store that we weren't open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Now that's unfathomable to me, especially as an owner. I'm like, if I'm not open, I'm not making money.
Yeah.
But also the totals, sure, everything costs more. That's not the point. And I'm not worried about video games or other media because once they discover comics, they'll make room for it. It's not going to replace their video games. It's not going to.
Video games are not our competition.
Yeah.
No.
Or streaming service or whatever. Jesus, I have every streaming service I have subscriptions to, including things like Taskmaster Supermax Plus, BritBox, along with Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Paramount, Disney.
Yeah.
Did I say Apple? All of those.
Yeah.
Also,
it doesn't stop you reading.
Those are all write-offs.
That's right. That's research.
It's research. But
Same.
I mean, I don't use them all every month, but I have them. But yeah, it doesn't stop me reading.
No, and I think going back like when television went color. Oh, that'll stop people from fucking reading comics. Like we never had to compete with that.
No,
but I think we do have to compete with the attention span and the amount of time. I think we're competing with YouTube for sure. I think we're competing with that. Sort of stuff.
I know. Yeah, YouTube 100%.
Yeah.
Like for a while, my nephew was really into Minecraft, not playing it, watching people play it on YouTube. YouTube is. And YouTube, I think, is just such a, I get sucked down YouTube rabbit holes because their algorithms are so good.
Right.
But also, I get immediately turned off, I'm 30 seconds into a thing, and they give me an ad. I'm like, I'm leaving.
Yes. Well, there's a big fucked up thing, and that's why I keep coming back.
YouTube TV is my cable provider, too, so there's even more of a YouTube grab for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing I think we have a hard time competing with. The algorithmic way that these tech companies and all this sort of thing are taking attention. That's what we have trouble with, right?
Yeah.
And, for instance, Instagram, which used to be a great place for artists to post their art and interact with their fan, the algorithm said videos. Now it's, that's what we're losing, and I think that's the thing I get scared of. But I don't get scared of like the kids. I don't. You know.
You saw the marketing report I've shown you before that we've done. It's like you got to do more reels.
I know,
but I hate it.
and it's not what I fucking do. But
Right.
yes, I'm also doing a lot more fucking videos. I don't want to do that. I didn't want to be a TikToker. But again, that's I think the hard part. That's the attention game we're fighting for. Because I feel like watching a movie doesn't stop you from interacting with the world. Like you watch a movie and read something and whatever. It doesn't. You have a time that you watch a movie. Yeah, that's just a time you. But they're competing with YouTube and they're competing with these things that are algorithmically based to take your attention. That's a different thing.
And I was going to say like, oh, comics are portable. Everyone has a smartphone now. All those apps and all those streaming languages are also portable.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're competing with. And that's the screen time. I think it's going to be a hard thing. And just getting the attention to get people to pay attention. And like you said, the influencer, all that sort of stuff. It's a new game and it's always changing. That's the part I worry about. But the kids are great. They read comics all the time. They make them. They like them. They read them. You know, they don't care who makes them. You know, they just think they're cool. So
they want to make them too.
They like to make them.
Yeah.
They're easy to make. That stuff is there, but. Yeah, I do get freaked out about the attention game and also just how hard it is to distribute things and all that. That's the part that's scary.
Do you find, like, during class, people are... Because I assume, like, there's times where people are just drawing or creating on their own.
Yeah, studio time. Yeah.
So how often are, like, they on their phones watching stuff as opposed to drawing?
I mean, never in my class, but...
Good.
I do let them, like, listen. Obviously, you know, when I was in college,
Bring our Walkmans in.
Well, we wouldn't do that. We'd pick them. You know, the professor would pick music, or we would bring a CD and we all listen to it. We all listen to the same thing. But now it's so easy to bring your
earbuds in.
Yeah, so everybody listens to their own shit.
Which I mean, that's great. I'd prefer that as well. Yeah. Shit, if I could do that here.
I liked the communal thing, but that's that
yeah,
I know
that's
gone.
That, but whenever I used to go over to Devil's Due or to 4-Star, it was pin drop quiet in there. Like everybody, I think mainly because you all had headphones on or whatever. But like,
I was writing. That's why I can't write in. I could draw and listen to stuff, but I couldn't.
That's fair. That's fair. Literally, I was inking Misplaced at 17 for Josh, and it was during the Obama-Romney debates.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah. And I couldn't... Like, I can't...
12.
I can't have people... No, wait, it was Obama's first run, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Right?
No, McCain was first.
Oh, okay, then it was... Okay,
2012. Okay, I don't know why this matters.
I got the...
We're old men bickering about time. Yeah. Oh, it was them.
Because it was the first time. But, like, I can't listen to... people talking when I'm working. It's got to be music. I can't put movies on and stuff. I got to have music.
Interesting.
But the debates I could follow, and I inked that book just doing debates.
That's amazing. Oh, that's kind of that is apropos, I think, right? Because that was like this moment of hope in the future, and then
Tim, tell people where you are online, since we love social media so much.
I am on Twitter at @HackinTimSeeley. I am on Instagram, at least for now, just at Tim Seeley, SEELEY. There's another one in there to really mess with you. I have a website, timseeleycreative.com, and I'm going to try to avoid all the other social medias for now. So
fair,
yes.
And if you've enjoyed this conversation, you can have one of your own with Tim when you come into the store on Wednesday, February 22nd, from 11 to 1 or whatever happens after that.
I can hang out longer than that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
All right, that's fine.
I don't want to squat, but yes.
You're welcome all day.
All right, awesome.
We'll be closed at 7. So
I really want people to read this book. I'm really proud of it. If you like Revival, this is an easy transition. If you like Nightwing, it's an easy transition. It's kind of hack slashy, but yeah, it's the way that hack slash was. It is the thing we're making fun of at the same time. So
perfect.
There you go.
And speaking of hack slash, Tim just gave me a bombshell hack slash announcement that has gotten me so excited for the future of that property that I can't even. I will be reading this book until the end of the earth.
it's leaking. I can tell you just can't handle it. You just want to leak.
Yeah,
just want to leak all over.
Exactly.
But thank you so much.
Hey, man, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure. Here's to the next 21 years.
Sounds good, man. Oh, God, we'll be so old.
That's right. And technology would just be thinking it. And
we think casting.
Yeah. All right, so we end this. I say thanks for listening, and Dal says keep reading comics. You're Dal this time, so thanks for listening.
Oh, please keep reading comics, for fuck's sake.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.